We are going on an adventure today. I am high up in the mountains of western Pennsylvania, and we're expecting a snowstorm tonight. So I figured it'd be a great night to go camping. I'm going to be hiking deep into these woods. I'm going to try and find a good place to camp out for the night. And already the wind is starting to pick up. It's starting to snow a little bit. So we got to find a camping spot pretty quickly here before the snow starts coming down. So I have this monstrosity of a sleeping pad here. Very comfortable, warm pad, which is why I brought it. It is just not meant for hiking. I always look for pines or hemlocks to camp under. They provide a lot of shelter from the wind and the snow. So this wouldn't be a bad place to camp out here. It's a little uneven in there. It doesn't look that comfortable. We're going to find a different campsite. It is getting chilly out here, that's for sure. This is looking pretty good here. Close enough to those pines where it'll break up the wind and snow a little bit. I'd go all the way in the pines, but it's a little thick in there. So this is looking like a good area to camp in here. The only problem is you got some dead trees. You don't really want to camp near dead trees, known as widow makers, because they could blow over real easy, especially if you're expecting high winds. Probably just gonna head down here a little farther, get away from these dead trees. I'm going to hang my pack off this tree, keep it up off the ground. Bank line, this stuff is great. There, easy pack access now. Got my Mora Basic 511, great knife. Very cheap too. Got this for 11 bucks. So I'm going to set the tarp up. I'm going to make a tent out of this tarp. So I want to raise the middle of this up. So I'm going to hang it from that tree up there. I have a napkin. I'm just going to scrunch it up into a ball. I got the napkin inside of there like that. And then I'm just going to take my rope and just tie it. There, now the bank line has something to grab onto. I can raise it up. And then I will tie the taut line hitch so I can tension it as needed. Pretty easy knot to tie. It's an adjustable hitch so you can tension your line. You can take the tension off or you can add tension. So I'm going to take this grommet and this grommet, bring them together, tie them together. You're going to have this excess here. I just like to just fold it over like that, or you can tuck it inside. Then I'll take this and tie it up to this tree. And I'll tie another taut line hitch here. There we go, there's my tent. And when I need to close the door, I can just adjust the tension. Now it's enclosed. And then I can open it up. It's like the snow's starting to come down pretty good now. Get my stuff inside the tent. Got this poncho here. Lay down first. Then we'll put the tarp down. A little extra protection. Then goes the pad. Self-inflating. This thing may or may not inflate very well since it's cold. Memory foam gets kind of stiff in the cold. All right, so I'm gonna get some logs cut and gather up some kindling and get a fire going. This is my favorite saw to use. I got this at Lowe's for like 30 bucks. The only problem was it didn't come with a sheath or anything, so I had to buy a chainsaw scabbard. Put a little bungee cord on it to keep it in place. It works perfect. I'm going to lay my base down, pile all my kindling on top of that. This little grove of spruces in here has all kinds of kindling I can use. Dry pine, dry spruce burns really, really good. All these branches and twigs are up off the ground, so they'll be nice and dry. Perfect. Look at my fire kit here. Keep all kinds of stuff in. Lighters, ferrocerium rod, magnesium, birch bark, fat wood. Fat wood I like to make feather sticks out of. Kind of rough up the bark a little bit. Birch bark and fat wood. Best fire starters you're going to find in the woods. I'm getting hungry. I have deer tenderloin I'm going to cook tonight. Oh, this should last me for a while. I'll just cut this dead branch up. So here's a good way to split a small log if you don't have a hatchet or an axe. If you want to save weight and you don't want to carry one, start right in the middle and saw halfway through the log. There, that's about halfway. Flip it over. And there you go. So that way you can get to the more dry inside part of the log. Then you have this part, and then you just flip it over and then do that again. Then we'll do the other one. There you go. Split logs will burn much better than full logs. It stopped snowing. I think it's supposed to start up again tonight at some point. Guess we'll find out. So I'm kind of stacking my bigger logs close to the fire. So when they're a little more dry from the heat of the fire, when I put them on the fire, they'll burn much better. So I put a tarp up as a wind block for the fire. When the wind blows that way, it's not blowing into my tent. And it seems to be helping. Starting to snow a little bit more. I got some pita bread here. Forgot my hummus. I was really looking forward to that, but I'll just eat these plain, I guess. They taste surprisingly good plain. Everything tastes better out here. I could probably eat a piece of leather and it would taste good. Alright, so I'm gonna bake some potatoes. Wrap them in some foil. Cook my deer steak on that hot rock. Let's get these potatoes cooking. Stab it a few times. Throw that in there. Time for the deer tenderloin. So I'm going to chop up this onion. I got to get everything cooked before the snow starts dumping on me again. All this smoke and onion fumes are making my eyes water. So I'm going to add a little butter to the hot rock. Salt this pretty good. One of the best steaks you'll ever eat. It's from a deer I harvested in the fall. So I'm going to pull these potatoes out. Should be about done. I left them in there for about half an hour. I'll melt some butter in there and then add some salt and pepper. Snow's starting up again. I forgot to bring a plate, so I'll just put everything in this pot. Keep getting some little snow squalls here and there. I think later on it's going to be more steady. Let's cut into this steak. Beautiful. It's good to me. Steak, potato, and onions. Can't beat it. I'm just eating this thing like a sandwich. They're called tenderloins for a reason. That's good. Alright, so I'm going to wash this pot up. There we go. Nice and clean. It is coming down. The wind is picking up. It's getting colder. The snow's getting heavy. I got to build this fire up again, get warmed up. I got to gather up a bunch of these dry spruce twigs and pile them on. There we go. Now that's a fire. That's what we want. Much better. I am much warmer now. All right, so we got a nice big warm fire going. Feels great. It's getting really cold. It's a little windy, a good bit of snow still coming down, but we got a blazing fire. That's all we need. A little bit of shelter and a full belly. Let's have a little hot chocolate. Sounds good to me. Swiss Miss never tasted so good. Gotta bump the sides off. Snow's piling up on the tent. Well, the sleeping pad is inflated. Took it a while. This is my pap's old sleeping bag that he gave to me. This thing is warm. He used to take this thing to Alaska with him hunting. I have no idea what the temperature rating is on this thing. All I know is I have never gotten cold in this thing, but I still like to preheat my sleeping bag before I get into it. And I'm gonna show you how I do that. I'm gonna melt some snow here. Takes a lot of snow to make a decent amount of water. So I'm gonna keep packing this thing with snow till I can get it filled up. All right, so my water's boiling in these pots. I'm gonna pour the boiling water in this bottle. These Nalgene bottles can withstand a lot of heat. Oh, spilled some. Good enough. That is gonna keep me toasty warm. And you want to make sure the lid is tight before you put it in your sleeping bag, because if it leaked, you'd be in big trouble. Warm that sleeping bag up. Alright, so I need this fire to last all night long, so I'm going to put this big log on here. Come morning, the fire will still be smoldering. You got this big log here too. A few big logs to put on here. That should be good there. That should last all night long. So I have some rocks heating up in the coals. Right now they're just a little too hot. I gotta let these cool down a little bit. Then I'll put them in some socks, and I can use these to dry out my boots a little bit. Nice and toasty. I'll shove these socks into the boots. Dry it out a little bit from the inside. I'm gonna put some really heavy wool socks on before I go to bed. These ones are a little damp. That hot water bottle really warmed this thing up nicely, and I'm happy about it. This sleeping pad is nice and warm too. I like to wear one of these face masks while I sleep. Keeps my face, head warm. Well, it's getting late. I'm getting tired, so I'm gonna go to bed. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, it's morning. It's still snowing out there, and it's still cold. Looks like the fire's still smoking a little bit. Well, that's good news. I stayed warm last night. Let's go see how much snow we got out there. I like to use my jacket as a pillow, so when I get up in the morning, it's nice and warm. It is a winter wonderland in the mountains. Got a good bit of snow. Probably got about half a foot of snow. So my fire burned up a little quicker than I wanted, but we still got some hot coals in there. All right, so I'm gonna gather up some kindling and get this fire going again. I'm just laying real thin pieces of kindling right on top of those hot coals. That'll heat up the kindling and it'll go up in flames. Give it some air. Trying to dry my gloves out a little bit. It is cold. I got my rock heating up and I'm gonna make some bread on that. This is my bannock bread mixture. All I have to do to this is add water and then mix it up. Knead it into a dough and then bake it onto a fire. There's flour, baking powder, and salt in here. Pretty easy to make. Then I'll finish it off by kneading it outside of the bag. It's looking good. Then I'll flatten it out and put it on the rock. Let's have some chicken noodle soup. And we're going to heat up some water for coffee. Once my water warms up, I'll add the coffee grounds. Just enough to cover the top, maybe a little more. Flip this over. You just got to be careful cooking on rocks because they could get hot and explode. I've never really had an issue with it. I just heat them up very slowly. That's looking about done. Now I'm going to melt some butter right on top of it. I'm going to add some cayenne pepper to my soup. Spice it up a little bit. Some black pepper, a little salt. This titanium spork is awesome. Got this from Battle Box a while back. Dip it in my soup. So good. You got to dip your bread in your soup. It's a rule. Cowboy coffee. All the grounds will settle to the bottom. It's a lot better than instant coffee. Well, I think it's time to take the tent down, gather up all my stuff, then I'm gonna get out of here. We're making some progress here. It's the worst part of the camping trip, packing everything up, stuffing it into your backpack, and leaving. All right, let's get out of here. Well, it's been fun. Thanks for watching, and join me in my next video. Forgot my camera.